You thought he was done? You thought the takes were too hot to handle? You better think again. He's back with even more scorching opinions, more controversial predictions, and the kind of truth bombs that only Zain Bando can deliver. If you missed the first round, prepare yourself. This is the follow-up you've been waiting for. It's time for Zan Zinger Part 2, another certified hit from the Empty the Bench Network. Here's your host, Zain Bando.
Again, it's Sunday morning. There's snow on the ground where I am in Illinois, but that doesn't deter us here. We're live. We're live on stream, a bunch of different platforms. Empty the Bench Podcast Network's YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Bando's Breakdowns, ETB on Twitter, myself on Twitter, and so much more. Thanks again for tuning in. Greatly appreciate all of your guys' support as per usual. It's another edition of Zain Zinger Part 2, trying something a little bit different with the 5-minute beds to get you prepped and ready for the stream. But without further ado, let's get into some particulars if we could. For those of you who don't know, this is an extension of Bando's Breakdowns. Bando's Breakdowns, of course, is the main flagship show off of this extended stream. So if you want to catch me every week, you can do so on Friday afternoons. We just had our newest episode, episode 78, dropped yesterday. And of course, you can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcast. You can subscribe on YouTube to the ETB Network, youtube.com/ETB Network. You can follow me across social media at Bando's Breakdown. And of course, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network as it helps us out a lot. My name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and an ETB Network co-host. As I just alluded to, this is the main show that I host, meaning Bando's Breakdowns. And of course, this is the offset version of that on Sunday mornings. It leads right into Gridiron and Gurus, which is coming up right after this. So after I'm done, there's going to be about a 30 to 45-minute buffer before Grant Winsauer, Michael Rapolo, and Ben Cruz come on to introduce you all to the NFL offseason. But for now, you get me for the next little bit. So without further ado, let's jump right in. My live reaction to Team USA defeating Canada. Let's start there. Which, by the way, was an unbelievable game. If you guys are just tuning in now, Team USA wins the gold medal over Canada. Jack Hughes, it scores the game-winning goal. It was his brother, Quinn Hughes, that scored the winning goal in the semifinal game to advance to the gold medal game as well. Obviously, a huge win for Team USA, a huge win for the country, a very, very good win in unison. It's a time where we need to, start bringing people together in this country for a lot of different reasons, and we finally did that with Team USA defeating Canada Sunday morning in Milan, one of the biggest wins, not just in Olympics history, but I think in the history of Team USA. Does it top what happened in 1980? When Team USA beat the Soviet Union? I'm not so sure. And again, I'm not really the hockey expert to be talking about this, but what I can tell you is it's another huge milestone for the country. It's a big milestone for the people who need it the most. And truly, it is a special time to be an American, especially at this stage in the Olympics, and to do what Team USA was able to do to win this gold medal was unbelievable. And I of course would welcome your comments, your questions, your concerns, all that good stuff. But Team USA gets it done. As we're talking right now, they're about to do the gold medal Olympic ceremonies, of course. So stay tuned for those. For those of you watching on NBC, and if we get a live reaction to those within the next 30 or so minutes or so, we'll talk about it. But we're gonna move on now. Just wanted to throw that in there. It wasn't the original part of the rundown on this, but timing couldn't be more immaculate. Um, so yeah. All right, let's move on. UFC Houston. It was the first UFC event back in 2 weeks. They took a week off. They had the Mario Batista card to begin the month of February, and then of course we transitioned to Houston for a huge card, a fight night card, from the Toyota Center. The main event saw former UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland win in the third round via TKO against the always tough, always dangerous on a huge winning streak Anthony Hernandez. Knocks him out. TKO win. Started with a knee to the body, followed by strikes to win and remain in the mix for a middleweight title shot. I took Strickland to win this fight. So did Jack Gold. By the way, I went 7-7 on this card, so not the greatest card in the world, but we increased our main event record to 3-1. So we'll take that. We won 3 out of the first 4. I can't complain there. And so is Jack. He also improves to 3-1. Tom Albano was our guest picker. He got this fight incorrect last night. He was the only one who took Anthony Hernandez to win last night in Houston. But nonetheless, though, it was an interesting fight. It was a slow-paced fight to start, but Strickland really picked it up in round 3, used his combinations well to finish Hernandez. And then, of course, the post-fight interview was all class and whatnot. But it was one of those where, you didn't know what Strickland you were going to get. And thankfully, it was the one for him, at least, where he was confident, he was composed, he was clean in his punches, clean in his strikes overall. But yeah, I mean, overall, though, I thought it was a decent fight. But I was gonna say too, Strickland remaining in the mix at middleweight is huge. I talked about it on the show the other day that he needed to win this fight to stay in the middleweight title hunt because it's a crowded division. And Dana White even alluded to it last night at the post-fight presser that he'd like to see Khamzat Chimaev remain at middleweight, defend his middleweight title a few more times, and maybe Strickland is in that mix. I think there's a lot that still needs to be decided. Dricus Duplessis needs to get his next fight booked and whatever, and et cetera, et cetera. But what I will say is I think the middleweight division, having a former champion in the mix, is going to help the depth of the division, because we didn't quite know where the division was going to go after Duplessis lost to Chimaev. If Dana is correct on his assumption that he wants Chimaev to remain champion at middleweight, I think that would be great. I think that would be awesome. But nonetheless, though, I thought it was a decent card. Again, as I alluded to, 7-7 on this card. Can't fully complain about it. It was a tough card to pick overall. I'll give you that. But nonetheless, though, it was an interesting card. There were a lot of finishes. There were a few finishes to top the night off. We had Melky Costa win in brutal fashion, spinning back head kick knockout, only the 6th one in UFC history to end by that fashion. So congratulations to him. He looked really good. Who else stood out on Saturday night? I thought Idris on the undercard looked good. He beat O'Day Osborne. That was a pretty good fight as well. Let's see who else on the card looked like they were a standout performance. Jocelyn Edwards looked good as a big favorite. Zach Reese did not look the part whatsoever. Zach Reese was lost a split decision in a fight that a lot of people thought he won based on Twitter discourse, but it is what it is. Let's see what other fights stood out. Odie Osborne got beat, which I was surprised about. Very surprised about, in fact. Very surprised about. Let's see. Jacoby Smith, though, was my standout performance of the night last night. Jacoby Smith remains undefeated. He's a problem at welterweight, that's for sure. I mean, the guy is a stud. He fought his tail off, and he was able to finish a guy who's making his UFC debut, which I thought was even more impressive. Let's see here. Lots of red for Tom here. Let's see how he did. Let's add up everybody's records here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He went 6 and 8 on this card. I feel bad for him. That's not good. I went 7 and 7, which puts my record at 30. Let's see, 31 and 20 overall for the year. How did Jack do? We're going to check right now. I think Jack did okay. Let's see how he did. So he lost this, and then he won this. I think he did better than all of us, but let's see though. This one wrong too. He won the last 3 fights. So let's see what he did. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he went 8 and 6. So he beat Tom and I just barely by the skin of our teeth. Congratulations to Jack Gold. He goes 8 and 6. That's not bad. So I go 7 and 7. He goes 8 and 6, and Tom goes 6 and 8. So congrats. So that's now 37, and it would be 14. That's not terrible. That's not terrible. We'll take it. We'll take it for sure. So let's make sure we did this correctly. Just one more second. By the way, we track picks for every UFC event every week. Jack and I do. So let's see what we did. 37 4. It should be 51 fights. Yep, that's exactly it. So 51 fights so far. Jack is seven fights better than me, and Tom on this card went 6 and 8. So that's not terrible. That's not terrible. We will take it for sure. Overall, I would give UFC Houston like a B. I would say probably a B, just because I think Strickland put it over the edge. There were some nice knockouts, but some of the prelims, because I missed most of the card, in fact, because I was at the Bulls game last night. Most of the prelims were just okay. They weren't anything special. But I will say though, it's good to see that the main event was solid, because when you don't have a solid main event, it causes a lot of problems, and that's what happens sometimes. By the way, as we're speaking, they're getting their gold medals now, so just figured I would mention that as well. But that's UFC Houston. They move on to Mexico City next week. We'll talk more about that in episode 79 coming up here in the coming days. So figured we'd mention that as well. Let's talk about some college basketball. Second biggest Big Ten comeback of all time, and I was at the first one. It was Michigan State versus Northwestern in 2017. But yeah, let's talk about it. So in case you guys haven't heard by now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Illinois loses to UCLA in overtime by 1. Game-winning buzzer beater for Dent. Coast-to-coast lay-in to win the game for UCLA. Illinois was up 33-10 at one point in this game. Looked like they were on cruise control and fell apart. UCLA proceeded to make 17 of 19 shots. Illinois was up 1 with 4.9 seconds to go in the overtime session and could not close the game out. So Illinois loses this one. drops a huge game. They go 1-1 on the road trip. They dominated USC on Wednesday night, and now they have to look itself in the mirror and figure out what the heck went wrong, because this was a critical loss. Now, Illinois just made Michigan's job easier to go win the Big Ten title next Friday in Champaign outright. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say other than it's truly, truly disappointing. It's a disappointing loss. A lot of people are scrutinizing Underwood. Who else are they scrutinizing? They're scrutinizing everybody, man. It's not a good loss. In fact, let's hear what Underwood had to say a little bit, because some of his answers were quite interesting. So I figured I would go into those for you as well. He's going to talk about defensively what in the world happened. What in the world happened with this loss, and just sort of why it happened. So let's jump right in here and discuss it. And then, in fact, I have two unread DMs. I don't know who they could be from. It's very well said. It's very well said. All right, let's look at Underwood now. I was getting a DM about how Friday night lost a lot of meaning in terms of the Big Ten title race, which I agree with for the most part. I mean, there's still, I don't even know if there is an outside shot now for the. I'd have to look deeper into this. But here we go. We're gonna go back to the well here. Scott Ritchie of the News Gazette to sort of peel back the curtain and explain what the heck happened defensively from Brad Underwood's perspective, because defensively a lot went wrong. So let's take a look at this. Wait, that's the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. This is it right here. All right, here we go. Here's Brad Underwood following the loss to UCLA, and yeah, I will turn it up. Here we go.
And they fought back. I thought we got very lackadaisical on the defensive side. 22% shooter in Daly, made some threes. And Booker got going a little bit. We were very concerned about Dent downhill. But we made some nice adjustments. But again, the game was our offensive rebounding was very good in the first half. We had a lull when we quit going. That caused some offensive problems. And then, give them a lot of credit. They made some shots. And I thought last play's frustrating. One guy that can beat you. Needed to make him pass, and a couple of our guys got out of the way, and that's on me. I got to do a better job of working on that situation and trying to challenge. I'm almost positive the officials would not call the foul because of the crappy call they made on the block before, which is just ludicrous. But just a tough night, tough one, and gotta learn from it.
So there's Underwood, and I don't know what's there to learn from. I mean, you got to go in there. And win a game like that, and that's the disappointing part. Is that's a game that they roll into Pauley Pavilion and they win. I mean, you're up 33 to 10 in the first half, and then you just go cold. You don't call a timeout when you're supposed to. I mean, just nothing seemed to go right as the game wore on, which is the real disappointing part of this. So looking at this now and looking at, just the Big Ten standings, because I figured we could look at those now, and we'll get into the next game in just a minute, which we'll only talk a little bit about because we only have a few minutes left on this. And I want to give those guys ample time to get in. So let's do that. Let's look at the Big Ten standings now. So obviously there's a clear gap now. Michigan 25-2. Now they have a big cushion over Illinois, as you can see. I don't know if there's a. Let's look. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. So yeah, they can't. Illinois, from based on what I'm gathering, unless I'm wrong, it looks like Illinois can no longer clinch a share of the Big Ten because they needed to win out, which included beating Michigan. And now beating Michigan will just make Michigan probably hungrier to go win the league because they have a lot of chances to still go do that. So that's the disappointing thing. But at least you could beat number one or number two on Friday night at State Farm Center and still feel pretty good about where you sit. Just a tough loss, though, overall. Big win for UCLA, by the way. Keeps them very much in the mix for a NCAA tournament berth if they've not already established itself already as a tournament contender. As you can tell, I'm getting a little tired. All right, let's move on now to the final, or one of the final topics here, or two of the final topics. Michigan loses to Duke in a neutral site game. Not much really to say here other than the fact that it was a defensive slugfest. Michigan's still a very good team. It's a Final Four preview. Dusty May doesn't really have a whole lot to answer other than the fact that his team just came up a little bit short and couldn't close the deal when it mattered most. But this was a big win for Duke. It gives them a lot of confidence that they can hang with some of the best tournament teams, in the country. And in a matter of weeks, they'll be able to do just that. Ryan Garcia beats Mario Barrios. Disappointing. I thought Mario Barrios would win that fight, and he didn't win that fight. And, it is what it is. Good to see Ryan Garcia back. I don't really love his antics, as we all know. I'm not the biggest fan of Garcia, but it is what it is. There's nothing you can really do about it. So Garcia gets it done. He is back on the map again as a star in boxing. Looked like he had lost his stardom a couple months and a year ago with all that USADA stuff, but it seems that's behind him now, and he can get back to being one of the best boxers in the world. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of boxing, Zuffa Boxing, one fight deal for Conor Benn. It's a big, big story on Friday, and Dana White had a classic response to this. So let's end the stream in a few minutes, but let's put a bow on the combat sports section of this rather. Or actually, wait a minute. Let's put a bow on the stream rather. With Dana White's remarks about Eddie Hearn. So let me pull that up because Dana White fired back against Eddie Hearn. Just in regards to what in the world happened here. So what's going on? Because you got to see it to believe it. I can't describe it to you guys unless I tell you. So let's do that. All right, here we go. Here we go. This is courtesy of last night's press conference and championship round. Here we go. Oh, by the way, You want to talk about Zan's errors? I made an error. My friends. I spelled his name wrong. It's spelled just like Conor McGregor. So there we go. There it is right there. So Zuffa Boxing signs Conor Benn. But let's take a look at what exactly happened with this here. Let's pause it and play it again. Here we go. All right, here we go. This is it. Another classic Dana White soundbite, if you've ever seen one, in my personal opinion. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's take a look at this.
Well, I think you saw this week, I am really beating up babies. Is there a bigger pussy than Eddie Hearn?
He was quite upset that Conor Benn left it.
Is there a bigger pussy than Eddie Hearn? This guy's supposed to be your friend. You're fucking crying. He made more money. He's going to make more money, and he had the right to match it. He could have matched it.
I think he said he tried and Conor Benn wouldn't return his calls.
What a crock of shit.
So there you go. It's clear that oh shit, I don't know why that always happens. It's clear that it seems like Dana and Eddie Hearn are starting to have their friendship fade away a little bit. So it is what it is. It happens, and yeah, I mean, there's not much more you could really say other than the fact that that sometimes these guys just don't know what they're doing. So it is what it is. All right, that's going to do it, though, for Zain Zinger Part 2. Thanks again for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Let's go over a few quick reminders before we get out of here. All right, first reminder that I have for you guys is to check out next week's episode, Bando's Breakdowns, episode 79. That'll be Friday, February 27th, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Special guest coming on the program. If you like college football of the past, you may have heard of this guy, especially if you've heard of Marcus Mariota. That's the only hint I'll give you. But we have a guest on next week. We're going to talk about college basketball, of course. We'll talk more UFC. We'll preview UFC Mexico City. We'll go over some other stuff, some news and notes. We'll probably talk about the Olympics, Team USA winning the gold medal, which they're getting their picture taken as we speak with the gold medals. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, and then we'll go over some other stuff too. I'm almost pretty sure, but tune into that as well. That'll be next Friday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, episode 79. So there's that. Final quick reminders: follow the show across social media at Bando's Breakdown, and of course, you can be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network, where you'll get every show, every live stream that's across the network. So to go through them, ETB Sports, Bando's Breakdowns, Forever Power 5 when it's in college football season. You'll get live episodes of Gridiron Gurus, which is coming up in the next 30 or so minutes, or even less than that now as we approach 11:30. So tune into that. We will get some more stuff. We'll get MTGP. We'll get Press Row with Nick Morganson and Kellen McCorg. ETB Lounge, which is tonight. It's usually on Saturdays, but Nick D's friends had a bit of a conflict, so tune in tonight. They're going to go over some funny stuff. I'm sure it should be a fun time. I'm not going to be there, but it should be a fun time for those involved and all that other good stuff. So please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And to do so, go to youtube.com/ETB Network. That's where you can find all the content. If you turn on post notifications, you won't miss a thing. And of course, my name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and the ETB Network co-host. Check out my work across several different platforms: The Sporting News, MMA Knockout on Sports Illustrated, Dallas Wings on Sports Illustrated, Ohio State on Sports Illustrated, Field Level Media, and so much more. I was your host on today's stream, and thank you for letting me in to a brief half an hour glimpse in the world of sports. We're going to do this all again next week. Shout out to the few people who joined. I know it's a busy morning for most of us. We were all out, or most of us were out watching the gold medal game unfold. Team USA wins in overtime as we began the stream with. And until next week, we will see you guys soon. Have a good one.